It's rare that we get to make fun of Canada here in America, and when the opportunity arises, we must take it for all it's worth. Which is why we're happy to point out the sheer douchebaggery of one Sam Soteropoulos, who thinks it's fun to tweet horrible things about the transgender community. Now you could say, well, but Jeff, people tweet horrible shit all the time. Well, yeah, that's true. But this guy is in a position of authority. You see, Sam is a member of the Toronto School Board and regularly uses his school account to tweet out nonsense such as this. Until I see scientific proof that transgenderism exists and is not simply a mental illness, I reserve the right to not believe in it. Now, you guys probably ask, is there a point to this story other than saying, look what this asshat posted up on Twitter? Well, yes, I'm actually glad you asked. Because what makes this guy important to point out isn't just the horrible shit he says or tweets, but how much of a coward he is about it. You want an example? Why don't you check out the way he dodged some of these questions in an interview with the Global Post.
So from your most recent tweet about transgendered, you don't believe it, are you saying that people who identify as transgendered are mentally ill?
I'm saying that many parents have come forward to me and they believe that they send their kids to school to study the basics, reading, writing, mathematics. And to have confusing notions of identity introduced to children in kindergarten through elementary school is really something that they feel should be discussed at home.
You didn't answer my question. I asked if you're saying that people who identify as transgendered are mentally ill.
That's not the tweet that I tweeted. I tweeted that I reserve the right to form an opinion on this once I've examined and looked at all the scientific evidence. Reserving the right to an opinion is not necessarily exercising that opinion.
So in this, you're saying is not simply a mental illness. Is there a cure, do you believe?
I reserve the right to form an opinion. I have not formed an opinion on this at this point.
You didn't answer the question, which was if children who identify as transgender, should they be forced to identify as the gender they're seen as and dress that way and so on?
As I said, many parents, hundreds.
So you're still not answering the question.
I'm answering your question.
You're not answering the question.
I'm speaking on behalf of the parents who come forward, many of them.
I'm asking you what you believe based on your tweet.
I believe I have the right to an opinion and to form that opinion based on evidence that I will seek out and research on my own.
So is it your opinion that it's a mental illness then, as you said in your tweet?
I have not formed an opinion, but I reserve the right to form an opinion.
And you don't think it's offensive to suggest that they're mentally ill?
I think it's offensive to suggest that mental illness is offensive.
Nobody's saying that.
Seems pretty clear to me that they are.
No, it's saying that somebody is suffering from an illness versus who they feel is their identity.
Classic. Excellent dodging. Except that it's not excellent dodging, it's terrible dodging. But wait, he's not done. It gets worse.
So you also referred to Pride Week Parade as a freak show. Why is that?
I never referred to Pride Parade as a freak show.
Toronto World Pride Parade 2014,
I think
freak show with
here.
politicians. It's another one of your tweets. Freak show with politicians.
I never said it was a freak show.
This is a direct quote from your tweet. Freak show with politicians.
I was under the assumption that we were doing an interview on the most recent tweet around transgenderism.
Do you not stand behind every tweet you send out?
I do, as a matter of fact.
One of the most divisive influences in Canada today is homosexism. Its disseminators are maliciously rabid. That is also one of your tweets. These are your tweets.
Yes, they are.
They represent your views.
Yes, they do.
So why don't you want to discuss them?
No, I think the words stand for themselves.
So can you clarify it for me?
I don't think there's a need.
Well, I'm asking you because I'm looking for some clarification.
There's no need to. They speak for themselves.
But I don't quite understand it.
Well, you're free to comprehend it any way you wish.
Nothing.
I'm done.
I'm done. Yeah, you're done, all right. Boy, that was awkward. the silence at the last part, where this, and there were several times near the end. That was an 8-minute clip of where they just kind of stared at each other. It was the most awkward thing that I've seen. What do you guys think?
It's like that YouTube video of that little kid who's talking to his mother with that smug look, and he's like, Linda, listen, but you're not listening. And he just goes into this toddler circle argument that's just repetitive and makes absolutely no sense. He probably has the worst verbal acrobatic talent I've ever seen any politician do, because that was ridiculous. But what this video shows is that he knows what he's saying is wrong, and he knows what he's saying is going to hurt him politically. So at least it's good that people like this no longer have the tenacity to say these types of things about transgenders or gays in the public sphere. And kudos to that reporter, because that's something you definitely would have never seen here in America. Our reporters would probably said, oh, well, he says this one thing about gay people, and then somebody else said this other nicer thing, so here's two sides of the story. Who's going to say which one's right or wrong? I really appreciate that this reporter actually grilled him on the things that he said and made him look absolutely stupid.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The reporter deserves a hell of a lot of credit. I hope she gets a bonus or something for that, because it wasn't just kind of she asked him again and again, but she asked him again and again. I mean, as Jeff said, it's an 8-minute long video, and to keep on asking about pretty much the same point for so long is really good going. And secondly as well, I mean, obviously the guy's a painfully stupid man. He knows that he can't defend his positions because they are indefensible. And it's just funny that there's so many politicians. It's like, oh, I didn't say that. That wasn't me. It's like, no, but you said it right here in your tweet. This is what you directly tweeted. This is your account. Just, well, I stand by my tweets. They are my positions. They speak for themselves. They don't realize they still haven't got their head around that. Anything that they put up on the internet or anything that they do on TV, people can go back and look and make note of what they said. It's brilliant, and I certainly hope he gets kicked off the school board, because you do not want that sort of man in charge of kind of educating your children in any possible tangible way. You don't want him having linked to a position of power. I hope he gets kicked out of office as soon as possible.
And how can you take any debate team that comes out of that school district when they have somebody that's leading it that does a circle jerk argument like that? That was ridiculous, simply ridiculous. But I don't know, I don't see this clip and get discouraged. I actually think that it's a good thing, and it shows light that the transgender community is getting a faster track in becoming accepted, and people identifying the bullshit that people want to spit out about them. Some highly successful people are transgender. One of the directors of The Matrix is transgendered. So it's like, these people are not hidden. They're not something that's just like crazy living in some box somewhere. These are very successful, highly functioning people who aren't mentally ill. They have certain identities that they want to express from themselves, and they have the right to do that. And I understand that he's trying to, represent the parents, but what about that parent that has that transgender child that wants to go to school in a safe environment where that kid's not going to get beat up because he or she is wearing clothes that's not socially deemed proper? Like, those parents also need a representative. Those parents also need someone in their corner on the school board that's going to make sure that their children are safe.
I've been doing some investigative journalism during this segment, and of course I have to say that maybe I'm going to side with Sam Soteropoulos, because he is clearly an expert on this subject. This man is a published author, and I have here his book. This is the author of the Everything Mediterranean Diet book, along with Connie Diekman. So clearly, this is a man qualified to speak on issues of mental health and gender identity. But in all seriousness, let's address what he actually said, and on top of how egregious it is, how nonsensical it is. Even if you meet him where he's at and try to see it from his point, it still makes no sense. Until I see scientific proof that transgenderism exists and is not simply a mental illness, I reserve the right not to believe in it. Okay, Mr. Sam, I'm going to call you by your first name here because I don't want to keep butchering your last name. If something is a mental illness, again, we're going to try to meet you where you're at. That means it exists, right? You can't say that. That makes no sense. It's like saying, until I see that, being schizophrenic exists and isn't a mental illness, I reserve the right not to believe it. No, all right. So even if what you're saying is true, then it's still a real thing. Now you're wrong. That's not what it is. But if that's what it was, then that means it exists. Mental illness is an actual thing. I don't understand how even in this guy's crazy, convoluted, bigoted world, how he could think that made sense.
I mean, bless his tiny little brain for trying to bring science into it. I mean, for that entire eight-minute interview, he didn't really invoke God or religion or the Bible. He just tried to stick to science and, I haven't formed an opinion and stuff. But it's just really sad that he's obviously gotten away with this, holding this viewpoint for so long. It seems, I mean, I don't know how long ago those tweets were, but obviously he's probably held this job for some considerable time, I imagine. So why has no one challenged him? Because, I mean, the reporter seemed smart and she knew exactly what she was doing. But, I mean, I can imagine there are thousands of people who could beat that man in a debate. He'd probably lose in a debate against, a Peshawar or something. How has no one realised that this guy is an absolute buffoon? That's one question that I want to know the answer to.
Well, it kind of points to the importance of local elections. Voting in your local elections prevents idiots from from getting positions on the school board.